Draft minutes of the March 9th, 2022 meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the draft minutes? And are there any corrections or additions to the minutes of the March 9th meeting? Okay, if not, would a panel member like to make a motion to accept the minutes as circulated?
This is Joseph Yusufero. I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second it. It's Fran.
Great. Thank you, Fran. And with that, the motion, second, I guess we do need to vote. Sorry. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. That's unanimous and the motion carries. So with that, we will read the opening statement and bear with us as we go through this. This lays out what the DRP is charged with doing, as well as some considerations for those attending. So Title 4, Subtitle 2, Part 1, Sections 32-4-203 and 32-4-204 establish the Design Review Panel. The DRP was established to encourage design excellence and shall act in a consulting and advisory capacity to the agencies involved in the process for reviewing development plans. The objectives for the DRP's assessment include spatial, visual, functional, relationships to the topography, the natural and built features of the site, as well as the surrounding features of the site, visual and functional integration of streetscapes, pedestrian pathways, playgrounds, recreational amenities, and parks, streets and sidewalks are laid out in a safe and convenient manner, and parking is a positive design element. Building, parking garages, and other structures are spatially and visually integrated and suitable to their surroundings in proportion, massing, and type of materials and colors. Signage and other elements of urban design and plant materials are selected and cited to define the site, provide a theme, frame of view, enhance architecture and street character, improve microclimate, provide transition between dissimilar uses, screen objectionable views and uses, and reduce noise levels and glares. In carrying out its duties, the DRP utilizes the guidelines, plans, and architectural principles in the Comprehensive Manual of Development Policies and/or Master Plan, as well as other guidelines and regulations adopted into law. Certain areas of the county were designated by the County Council to require review by the DRP. The panel will provide a technical review of the proposed project. Issues relative to zoning, setback relief, environmental and stormwater management, and traffic regulations do not fall under the purview of the DRP and are regulated through the appropriate agencies responsible for those aspects of the development plan review process. The panel consists of 9 members. All are professionals with practical knowledge in the matters of design. For the purposes of making recommendations on a particular project, 3 members shall constitute a quorum. The attendance and comments of each member shall be recorded in the minutes, which shall be an open record and available along with all documents submitted to the panel for inspection and copying by the public. There will be an opportunity for the community to offer comments and suggestions at the conclusion of the applicant's presentation. These comments will also be included in the written record of the meeting. When a speaker is called up to speak, please keep your comments focused on design perspectives within your allotted 2 minutes time. If you're speaking on behalf of a community group, you will get 5 minutes. At the conclusion of the meeting, the Department of Planning will sum up the recommendations of the panel before a motion for vote is suggested. Recent legislation has changed the panel's recommendations to be advisory on the hearing officer and the various county agencies, unless the hearing officers or agencies find that the panel's actions constitute an abuse of its discretion or are unsupported by the documentation and evidence presented. Disposition of the plan will be determined as either approved with conditions, or additional review with a second meeting being required. Thank you for bearing with that. And then we'll move back to tonight's agenda, which is the following items for discussion. We'll start with 904 Applewood Lane, the Mest residence. Item number 2 will be 1510 Carrollton Avenue, the Noli residence. And finally, number 3, 607 Frederick Road in the Catonsville Commercial Review area. So item 1 is the Applewood Lane Mest residence, and presenter, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Cecily. Thank you, DRP panelists and everyone here tonight who's gathered together to see our new house presenting our new design for the 904 Applewood Lane property. I'm sure that the DRP is maybe tired of hearing this property's name. This is I think the 6th or 7th DRP submission for this property, but I think this one's going to stick. This is going to be the final one. You never have to see this property again. So as you can see, the first page of our submission, it shows a nice little colored rendering, sketchy rendering of the front of the house, the colors and the landscape kind of proposed generally. Let's get to the next page. Next page, please. This shows an aerial view of the whole property, of the 3 individual lots that will be merged together to be this whole property, and the surrounding properties around it and the streets. Next slide, please. And here's another aerial view and some shots up and down the street and of the property and across the street. And going down towards Pratt Avenue, Applewood Lane, some existing trees in the lane, end of the lane, pretty straightforward. Next slide, please. And some actual images of the property, showing some of the existing trees in the site. Next slide, please. This shows the existing site as it is right now, the existing trees that are on the property and the couple that we're proposing to have removed as required by our design. All those trees that will be removed will be replaced in kind by many new ones. So you'll see that in the landscape plan, but you'll see whatever we take out, we put a lot more back in. Next slide, please. This shows our proposed site plan, house position, location relative to the street, approximate grades as we're proposing them, and retaining walls and setbacks. From the previous approved design, the setbacks were on the other side, so we flipped it. So now one side has the smaller setback, the other side has the larger setback. And whole landscape plan will accommodate that, basically leveling out the whole backyard, using a lot of the natural grades in the front of the site and taking advantage of the higher grades in the rear of the site, using that higher grade at the very back of the site with retaining walls to create a nice level backyard and to improve the drainage on the existing site, as this site has historically had drainage problems, as we have discussed with the neighbors around the property over time. We have been working closely with all the neighbors to try to develop a plan so that they are happy with what we are proposing and that it will only improve the conditions on their site as regarding drainage. And we'll be coordinating all things that relate to how it affects their property. One adjacent property's house is very close. We'll be working in coordination with them to do screening that they like, and also reinstalling their fence that was on the 904 Applewood Lane property, but we'll be working with them to install it appropriately between the 2 properties. You can go to the next slide, I think. Before you go to the next slide, I'll go right back real quick. I just wanted to highlight one thing. So I highlighted in purple basically some big changes from the original design. One of the big changes was that the main mast of the house is now set back further from the street, giving more privacy and not being such a large mass on the front of the street. It went from basically being about 90 feet from the street on the main mast of the house to being about 118 feet the main mast of the house, and the garage changing from a detached rear yard garage to a front yard position, and that works really well with the massing of the house. You'll see within the elevations of the renderings that it's the massing is broken up appropriately to fit on the site nicely, and the front facing garage isn't overbearing on the site at all. Now you can go to the next slide. Thank you. And here is our schematic preliminary landscape plan done by Barron's Home Design, Landscape Architecture and Interior Design. Stuart Artell designed this. It's very, very nice. It takes advantage of the existing grades. very nicely. Incorporates retaining walls around the property to help mitigate, take advantage of the existing grading to get nice level yards, but also help with the drainage issues on this site. And we'll be working in close coordination with both neighbors on both sides of the property to get that all installed. So they're already aware of that. We've, the property owner, Andy Metz, has been in constant communication with the surrounding neighbors about what he's planning to do, and they're all very happy that he's been in communication with them and helping them be involved as much as possible. So, as you can see, we're planting a lot of native trees and plants and shrubs, and this is even just preliminary. I mean, there will be a final landscape plan that it probably has even more detail than this, but this is, I think, sufficient, more than sufficient enough for the DRP. Okay, I think we can move the next slide. So here's that front rendering again. It's it's pretty nice. You can move to the next slide. This is a nice, 3D modeled rendering of the house. Give you a good example of how the house is raised above the front natural low grade, and then it's in the back, it's level pretty much. Step out about 1.5 feet down, and that's that rear rendering. So it's lower grade in the front naturally, higher grade in the rear. So the massing is mostly, it has a second floor mass that's basically the same height as the previous approved design for this property, but most of the second floor mass is a single story, at least on one wing and on the garage wing, and one wing of the second floor is lower than the main mass. I think it's broken up very appropriately for this site, being kind of a narrow and long site. You can go to the next slide and show the rear. Yeah. And that shows the higher grade in the rear and the retaining walls along the edge of the property, the one big level yard, and the one story massing for the whole master wing on that left side of the rendering, and the lower second floor massing on the right side. So it definitely isn't as large and massive as the previous house that we had approved for this property. I think it's much more appropriately scaled. You can go to the next slide. Here just shows a general section through the whole site, showing the front of the property, the rear of the property, the natural grade being about 417 at the very front of the property, right where the house is, where you step up to stairs, 421, rear yard about 425.5 at the back of the yard, 425 at the front of the yard on the rear, and 430 at the top of the retaining wall, and then all the way back to the 436 natural grade. The other section is not that interesting. It's just a cut straight to the house, showing the level 423 grade, 424 grade on both sides. That's kind of just the natural grade that happens as a result of having the rear yard at one level and the front yard at a lower level. And then there's also retaining wall detail, which is how we would do the retaining walls for the site, showing the stone veneer and stone cap. And here's, yeah, you can go to the next slide. Yep, here's the front elevation listing all the materials. We're taking a combination of, I would say, modern kind of barn style materials, combining lap siding and vertical scored siding, and kind of and for like having a centered mass tower that has a nice unique aesthetic finish with this sort of vertical metal siding. It's like a board and batten panel. So the colors are, a nice medium gray, so they'll all blend together well. And, the trim work is all white and will look very nice in terms of the medium gray tones with the light gray for the roof. Nothing crazy exciting, but I think it all works together well for the vernacular, the language of this house. And the retaining walls will be brick, but the concrete will be, the concrete foundation will be brick patterned formwork, painted. So that, that's a cost savings, but it's also, it still looks very nice when it's painted. As you can see, the massing of the house is broken up. I think appropriately. Does very lower front garage, goes up to a one story on both wings, and second floor mass is, I would say, pretty modest, not very large or overburdensome for this site. And the rear, you see the screen porch. You can go to the next slide. And there's the rear of the house showing our shed dormers and large glass to let as much light into the living space as possible in the master bedroom, and a screen porch off the rear as well. It's a very appropriately sized house for this family. They're very happy with it. It's a labor of love coordinating all this whole design, and then the layout you'll see next in the floor plans. Yeah. And that's the other side of the house, showing the lower step down garage, with the roof all connecting through to connect back to the main house, and the lower second floor wing with the taller second floor wing and the rear screen porch. I think it all steps nicely with the natural grade, almost gives it like a stepping feel from front to back. And I think it's just really just appropriately scaled to this house much more than the previous design. Go to the next slide. Here's a basically preliminary basement plan. You know, that might change a little bit, but generally this is what we would like to do in the basement. It's, you know, recreation area, storage, sitting room, little game area, little bath, guest bedroom, and window wells to let it lighten down the basement. You can go to the next slide. This is our main floor plan. You can see there's stepping up a fair bit up to the first floor. Entry main foyer, big open glass stair in the stair tower. Leads you into a living room, dining room, kitchen, all lined up, centered together. Symmetry is very important to the mess. We always try to work that through with this design. First floor master wing, large rear patio, large rear screen porch, you know, generous office and pantry leading up to, you know, mud entry and 2-car garage. It's definitely a labor of love. It worked out very nicely. Go to the next slide. And then the second floor is just the 3 bedrooms for, you know, the mess children. They, you know, then have a homework room, you know, second floor laundry room, and 3 comfortable balanced bedrooms. So the boys are they all have a nice even bedroom. No one's fighting over for a bedroom as best we can. So as you can see, I didn't highlight on the previous slide. Can you go back one slide real quick? I just wanted to highlight real quick. The actual finished floor for the main floor for the previous design was about 4,263 square feet. So it went down significantly, partly as a cost savings and just realizing it's just that they didn't need that much space, just more appropriate for the home, so that it's much more appropriate square footage for the site. So reduced down from 4,263 to 2,968. So much more, I'd say, appropriate size for the house, for the site. And then you can go to the next slide again. And then the square footage is basically the same on the second floor. And here's our material sheet, talking about the brick pattern painted formwork, the vertical rustic boral siding, combined with horizontal lap siding by boral, and the 2-inch cut stone veneer, Ramon brown, roughly rectangular stone, very popular for the retaining walls. At least it's a stone we've used a lot recently. It's very aesthetically pleasing stone, and it's kind of neutral in its tones. And the standing roof, metal roof, you know, kind of a lighter medium tone gray. Anderson A-series windows, black clad, you know, solid cellular PVC, white and exterior floodlights, and probably different decorative lights as well, but preliminarily probably haven't determined that yet. The ultra batten wall panel bridger steel siding for the main tower element at the front, kind of stand it out. It's like a board and batten, and that would be like a charcoal kind of gray charred wood texture, and then the clopay doors, Grand Harbor style, to match the elevations. But that's the series and that's the color, and that's it. And here's all of our, you know, acknowledgments of the communications to the community. Brush through that. That basically covers everything. And like I said, it was you know, it's a labor between me and Mr. and Mrs. Mess to, you know, if we get a house that works for their site appropriately for the scale and massing of that site, it doesn't feel overbearing on the neighbors at all, and it definitely accomplishes everything they want in terms of their layout and their finishes and their preferences. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for letting me present it.
Thank you, Robert. And then I'll turn to Marta and ask if there are any speakers from the public who are signed up.
I don't receive any messages about public. And Brett, let me check with Brett. Brett?
Yeah, there's no one signed up in the chat.
Okay, so looks like we don't have anyone, Cecily.
Okay, thank you. We'll hold off on reading that statement then. Okay, very good. So I'd like to open up the floor to the panel members and starting with Fran Anderson, if you'd like to lead us off.
Hi, Fran.
Sure. Hey, Robert. How are you?
I'm all right.
Good. I guess you warned down all the neighbors so they didn't bother.
No, we've just been taking a lot of time to kind of communicate and make sure they're happy with everything, and that we've been very forthcoming about how we're planning it all out. And if it's any of the neighbors that were really directly affected, on ones on either side, we would coordinate all the installments of the retaining walls and landscaping with them so that they'd be happy with what we've done.
Right, right. And I don't have anything from the neighborhood association saying that there was any issues that were raised to them. So that's good. I'll tell you, honestly, I love almost everything he did, and architectural styles aside, I'm talking about, if I had concerns of the previous house, it was front setback, it was right side setback, both of which you've increased, which I think is great.
Yeah.
I think that's terrific. I even like the fact that you moved the screen porch, or what was the sunroom, from next to the master bedroom to the other side of the house. It helps the house too, and it helps the flow. I like the garage around back, but the fact that you don't have so much, impervious surface now with the garage, the driveway that went around the side to the back, this is great. I would say it looks like the landscape plan is going to do a nice job kind of hiding that garage a little bit. I think it detracts a little bit from the front, but so I think it's really, really great, most of what you did. I do have a question for you, and it's not really a comment or a criticism in any way. In terms of the color selection, when you have very distinct contrasting colors, was it as simple as look, if the structure is oriented sort of this way and the roof line is this way, we're going to go with the darker color, and if it's turned, was there a rhyme or reason to the color selection logic to it?
Well, I think that this kind of the dark colors with the main front gable massings, the ones that project out forward, is kind of a way of standing out from the kind of recessed, lighter colored aspects of it. I think it kind of produces a nice little balanced effect, like an artboard, like balanced picture.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. I just wanted to understand the logic behind it, like why this portion of the building was which color it was.
I think it kind of helps those elements that project forward kind of stand out and pop a little bit more and get a little bit more interest to them, so they're not just some sort of off white or just whites that they all blend together. They could just all be the same color, but I think it helps kind of stand out those material differences between it a little bit as well.
And this is the final color selection.
This was the way that the color schemes kind of worked out by the mess, their preference, and so it might change a little bit here by the end, tinkering here and there, but I don't think it's going to change significantly after this.
Right, I was just curious, and I think it is such a significant part of the house to know that it's the final. It's good. Sure. I really don't have any other comments. I think you guys did a really nice job, and I like the changes in scale and mass, and I like the setback changes. So I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Fran.
Yeah, thank you, Fran. We'll move to Raj Sharma next.
I don't have any question. It looks pretty impressive.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then Joe, you are up next.
I concur with Mr. Sharma. I think it's well executed, and I have no further comments. Best of luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay, and then lastly, I don't think I see Kelly has joined us. Am I correct on that?
I don't think so, Cecily.
Okay, so I'll just kind of state a couple of things, and I do have one quick question. I do agree with my colleagues. The small massing at the front responds well to the narrow, deep lot. So I think that has improved, and echo the response to the driveway. Never love a front loaded. This nice side loaded response to, a narrow, deep lot that has access only from the front. I think it solved a few problems. So I think that was good. I liked your explanation of the gable forward being the dark and the gable side being the light. It's good to hear that explanation. I think that's fairly rigorously applied, so I think that's good. And also give you points for the band board with the sill element that is very nicely detailed at the base of the wall. My only question would be the retaining wall material, because I think I heard you say both brick and stone. So maybe you can clarify, is it brick in one location and stone faced?
I think that
veneer in
yeah, I think that the actual original site itself has stone retaining walls on it, the property. So the ones that wrap the property, the ones that round the very outside bounding, the ones that kind of make the edge of the property in the back of the yard would be the stone. And the ones that are the brick are the ones that are just directly connected to the house, like those planting retaining walls that are at the very front. Those ones directly connect to the house, so they kind of sort of have to be brick in their nature. But the ones that surround the property, because they will also be, aesthetically viewed by neighbors, and I think it also sort of relates back to the traditional landscape walls of the property. They already have landscape walls that are going to have to be taken out, but we'll put our new ones back in same kind of stone or similar. So at least it still sort of relates to the property in a certain way.
Great, thank you for that response. I had two follow-up questions then. So is that natural quarry stone, or is that a manufactured stone veneer?
It's a natural, that's a cut. It would probably be a natural cut stone. So 2-inch, cut to like 2 or 3 inch thickness and applied mortar directly to the foundation, to the actual retaining wall structure.
Okay, and then the last question on the brick portions, and it shows up well in this image, in the rendering. So I understand that explanation. Things that attach to the foundation walls are going to be brick retaining walls for site walls. I'm just curious about the color again. So I think I see, or maybe it varies depending on which element of the house, that the foundation walls of the house are the pattern brick and painted dark.
Yeah, so the pattern brick is painted dark, where the projected gables that are dark. So it's the pattern. It's a brick pattern foundation. So it painted the color that matches the gable that is the darker color where it appears.
Right, but then
I chose to keep the retaining planting walls the whiter color, at least for this rendering, so because those walls directly connect to the main centered entry of the house, and I think kind of highlights the perimeter edge of this sort of concrete drive that we were planning. So I thought white would be generally better than just kind of putting black and then white, then black and white. I think it works well on the house, but maybe it doesn't. That's why I chose to do white on the retaining planting walls.
Yeah,
You can just say I was too cheap, Robert, to pay you to render more.
No.
Well, I mean,
I was out of money.
I think that that you might come into like transitions between those two elements and just have have to have a joint line. I think that'll be fine. I do think this is the right choice. Looking at it and rendering certainly helps make that decision. It elongates or makes taller that front facade, as well as correlates to the main massing of the house. So I think that's all good. So with that, I don't have any other comments. It looks like a lovely house and well detailed. So with that, let me, well, I don't know if you have any concluding, if the presenters have any concluding before we move to a motion, but is there anything that you would like to say in response to our comments or final thoughts before we move to motion?
No, not for me. Just thank you. Appreciate your time, and it has been a labor of love, and Robert's worked very hard to get us back here again after a year, and we spent a lot of time with the neighbors, just kind of taking on board their comments, and we appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the effort, and enjoy the house. So I'd like to turn back to my panelists then and ask if someone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the approve the project as submitted.
Thank you, Fran. Any second on that motion?
This is Joseph Yusufero. I'll second the motion.
Very good. And now we'll move to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. So the motion carries and the project is approved. Thank you very much, presenters. Appreciate your time as well.
Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Very good. And with that, we'll speed right along to item 2, which is the 1510 Carrollton Avenue, the Noli residence. And presenters, if you are ready, the floor is yours.
Okay, this is Charles Alexander. Forgive my voice. It's not COVID. I've tested 3 times, but I feel like it is. But anyway, fortunately, we're doing things remotely. So anyway, thank you for your consideration on this project. And just as a small note, 904 Applewood is very familiar to me as well. I may have been the last person to get a project approved there. I can't remember how many iterations ago that was. Anyway, this particular project is for a longtime friend and client of ours, a developer that we've done the Mill One project with. She has a growing family and loves her neighborhood, loves the house, and wanted to make sure that it would accommodate her children as they get older. The house itself is a very simple center hall gabled house. There's currently in the rear a small 1-story addition on the back, as well as a porch addition off to one side. Actually, a porch addition on both sides flanking. Most of this addition, or what you see, is working within the footprint of what was already there, but taking 1-story additions and making them into 2 stories. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So here are photos of the home. It's painted brick, slate roof, very simple palette. You can see the sort of shed, newer addition off to the what would be the east side of the house, sort of wrapping around where the chimney is. Porch on the left side, as well as then the sunroom, family room addition on the rear. Next one, please. Here you have a little bit more context in terms of the street. The homes are basically a mix of styles, all pretty traditional in their general nature, almost all of which have already had additions added to the rear. I think this may be one of the last in the neighborhood that hasn't been expanded from its original size. Go ahead, next. Again, just some photos of some of the neighboring houses, a mixture of scales, styles, colors, materials. So go ahead, next one. It is I guess originally when this neighborhood was laid out, they were much smaller parcels. This is a double partial. It's highlighted in blue. You can see its proximity sort of to the main road moving just a neighbor away. And you can also see sort of the graying of the boxes. So this particular house is centered on what would have been the old property line that divided the 2 parcels. Okay, next one. And this is just a photo from above where you can see the very simple sort of gable with the 2 saddlebags on either side. Okay, next one. So the concept here was pretty straightforward. As I said, we were working mostly within the footprint what was there. One of the real reasons for that was there's some really nice trees. We wanted to be very careful relative to roots that were located in the rear. We ended up with sort of a staggered pair of gables on the rear that tie into the back of the house, as well as then a side gable that kind of pulls out from the massing of the house on the east side. All right, go ahead, next one. So the floor plan basically leaves the existing house more or less as it was. A long time ago, the sort of windows were removed from the living room when the sort of office sunroom addition was added off to the side. And then you can see the sunroom addition on the rear. The new footprint expands across the rear and kind of connects that office space around sort of in an L configuration. The massing is broken down a little bit. We did add a little bit of width off of the in the office area. Entry comes in on a side porch after going through a gate. Existing gate is there. We're sort of reworking it. So you would come in, and then there's sort of a family entrance there with closet and cubbies, and then proceeding through the living room and on to the kitchen. Off the kitchen, basically we're able to kind of, use the opening a little bit more, breakfast bar, dining area, and a real family room that can be used for the growing family. The porch is shown as being more kind of compacted. I think now it's a deck, and we're looking at basically creating a Florida room in that area. And then that particular side porch opens down, as well as the dining room area open onto a patio that works its way in and around the roots of the existing trees. Next one, please. Second floor, currently pretty tight living arrangements. There's an ensuite bath in the one bedroom, and then a small bath in the hall that is used by the other two. Excuse me, the other two bedrooms. This basically adds 2 bedrooms. Well, it takes away a bedroom, so it's technically 1 additional bedroom, but basically creates larger bedrooms for the children, and adds a bath, an ensuite bath for a primary bedroom. Off of that bedroom, a walk-in closet and office space. Next one, please. This is just the basement area, again, to limit disturbances in the area under where the existing sunroom area is. We're just doing a crawl space, but then once we get away from the trees in the backyard, we're able to align with the existing basement and add some additional storage mechanical. Next. Here you have the front elevation. So essentially the same sort of center hall building stays the same. The addition is set back a little bit to sort of differentiate it. Same kind of window scale and detailing, but switching from the painted white brick to a hardy siding, which again would be white to match the color of the house. The new roof would be a simulated shake asphalt shingle. The east elevation shows the sort of recessed porch area, as well as sort of the office to the left, family room to the right. Skylights have actually been deleted from the project. They're not there anymore. And then upstairs, kind of a centered window in the office area. Go ahead, next one. The rear elevation is where you get the kind of twin gables. Again, we wanted to kind of keep the scale of the sort of gabled house going as we went around, keeping things pretty modest. This kind of allowed us to get away from, some kind of big shed or something that kind of changed the vocabulary of the house. We felt it was important to keep the same roof pitches. So here you have kind of the twin gables. The right is the dining room and the bedroom upstairs. Then there's sort of a hyphen area. And then you have a gable that projects a little bit more, which is the family room and the master bedroom. And then the west elevation, you see the patio door from the dining room out to the terrace, as well as the sort of Florida room piece on that side. Again, that porch is also set back from the front facade. Everything else is pretty much existing. So the main mass of the house really remains untouched. You want to go to the next image, please? These are just some quick massing shots to kind of show how the pieces go together. I think this shows that we were able to maintain that kind of gabled scale that came with the existing house, even while adding substantially to the usable square footage. And I don't know if there's any more. We can see if there's another one. Yep, one more from the rear. Again, showing the massing. With that, I'm done. I'll open it up for questions and any comments. I think
Great, thank you.
I think everything else. Survey
Thank
stuff.
you. So before we move on to a discussion by the panel or any questions from the panel, I'll check back in with Marta to ask if there are any speakers from the public signed up.
No, there are no speakers. And Brett?
None in the chat.
Okay. Right along then. Okay, again, we will start with Fran to lead us off in the discussion.
Thanks, Leslie. Mr. Alexander, what I don't have is any feedback from Ruxton Riderwood or neighbors. Was there a meeting? Was there a proposed meeting with neighbors? Give me some feedback there.
Yeah. So I will plead ignorance on that. I don't know if Jennifer Nolly, are you on the on this review?
I am on this, yes, and Grace sent letters to all of my surrounding neighbors, and there was a follow-up afterwards, and nobody had any issues. I'm also very close with all my neighbors, and everyone is very excited about it.
Okay.
I also spoke with Mr. Jamie, sorry.
Khan?
Yes, with Mr. Khan and Hope from the board, and they also had no additional comments or questions that had arisen from the neighbor.
Okay, great. Well, that's good. And just curious, not really in our purview, but you don't need any you don't have any setback issues with the additions, or you're not looking for any relief from setbacks here, right?
No, the house was sitting in the center of the property as it was, and again, we sort of stayed pretty much on top of everything that was already there, and we took advantage of the fact that we had ample setback to the adjacent neighbor on the east to add a few feet to the footprint in that side.
Yeah, because I mean, to me, that's really the most impacted of anybody are the neighbors on the sort of left and right and a little bit to the back. But if they're happy, I really don't have any other comments for you. I'm more concerned about their perspective, and it sounds like they're okay, and I'm satisfied. So good job, and that's it for me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Fran. We'll go to Joe Yusufero next.
Hi, good evening. This meeting is easy so far. I have no comments at this point. So thank you and well done.
Thank you.
And now we'll move to Raj Sharma.
I'm just a little curious. I have a question. Is the new addition going to be tied into the existing structure and the framework of the house, or it will be just sitting beside the existing house? And what will happen once the new addition starts settling?
So one of the reasons we're taking the foundation down and matching it, we do have thresholds at all of the locations of the adjoining additions. So settlement really shouldn't be an issue from an expansion joint standpoint. Roofing wise, we're basically overbuilding on the existing roof, but we did take differential settlement into consideration relative to the structural design.
Okay.
Anything further, Mr. Sharma?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I will give you, I just want to commend you for following the gable forms and roof forms of the addition to match and relate to the house massing. I think that's done particularly well. I do have a couple questions. So I think you said that the original roof is slate. Is that to remain and then you're laying on top of that asphalt shingles? And then how will those join? Or are you removing the slate shingles from the existing house?
Only from the, so where we go onto the rear of the house, we need to,
Yes.
but from the front, the existing roof would remain.
Okay, so from the street, we're leaving those in place and somehow you, the ridge line will be the divider.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, very good. And then my next question is about the chimney. I'm guessing that's now a chimney enclosure, almost a false form on the roof. Is that correct?
No, it's the same chimney that's there now.
It is. Okay. All right. I thought that maybe it was just a rendering that showed it.
Yeah, so we don't have any gables that are taller than the existing roof, so there's no need to extend the chimney either.
Okay. Very good. A small nitpicky thing. Is the patio designed, is that the design that's shown in plan, is that the final design or is that just a placeholder?
It's just a placeholder. The reality is that 90+% of the landscaping that exists in the house stays. There's a little bit of foundation planting against the existing sunroom area that would have to be replaced. There's a beautiful pine or pair of pines that are located right in that patio area. So it's really just something happens at the ground plane. But until everything's been done, I don't think there's really been any finalization of what that would be.
Okay. I mean, I think it's great that you're keeping the existing landscape. I will say that to my eye, the patio that's shown here is sort of a spilled paint scheme and doesn't relate well to the building's architecture. And just, given the project we just saw and how integrated, I guess, that rear area was, I just would love to see something. I mean, it's in the back of the house. It's irrelevant for, what I think of as the main points, but I'd just love to see that, more of an outdoor room that has some form rather than something amorphous in shape.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's, that's something that I'm sure Jennifer can listen to. I think if you went to the photo of the rear, you would see the backyard gets pretty organic in terms of its shapes pretty quickly. If you go to the actually photo of the rear, not the aerial. I think it might be the next one. No, I think there were some photos of the house. Yeah, go. Yep, one more. And another one. There we go. Whoop. So you can just catch it into the right, the overhanging branches, but it's an exquisite tree. And things really kind of flow around it in a very organic fashion. So I think that was what, when Grace drew the patio shape, she was kind of replicating that same kind of meandering feel that exists in the backyard right now, as created by the sort of the shade of the trees, where things don't grow.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, as long as it relates to something in an event, I don't think, I do think the additions are well designed and that this is an appropriate and well designed addition and expansion of this home. So well done. And with that, well, I will offer the opportunity if there are any closing comments.
Just thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thank you. So with that, any DRP member who would like to make a motion on this one?
So I'll do that again. As Fran, I would move that the design be approved as submitted.
Someone would like to second?
This is Joseph Yusufero. I'll second the motion.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 That's unanimous and the motion carries. Thank you very much, presenters. and enjoy the home expansion.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we'll move right into item 3, which is our last, which is 607 Frederick Road in Catonsville. And presenters, if you are ready, the floor is yours.
Good evening. This is Rick Richardson with Richardson Engineering. We're the civil engineers. I also have with me Paul Gorman, who is the architect, and Cassandra Foster, who is representing BP. And so this request is basically to renovate the existing building. It's been there for a long time and needs a facelift. And as part of that, they want to add a car wash to the site. The gasoline stations have recently, the gasoline pumps have recently been redone, and they also put a newly canopy in place on there. So this basically is going to add a car wash is really the main thing that we're presenting here tonight, as well as upgrading the building to modernize it. Next page. So this is the current building in the back there, and you can see that the canopy is different because it's new, and they're rebranding it to a Crown Station from what used to be a BP. And so this is, like I said, this the existing conditions there. Next page. There's also the existing convenience store is way over on the right there. There's an old bank building there, little kiosk that they had a ATM in that is going to be removed. And this is an area where the stacking is going to start for the car wash. Next slide, please. So this is a picture looking down Bishop Street, which is the street that is on the east side of the station. You can see on the left, there's a car repair facility there with some garage doors. And you can sort of see in the background, just behind the trees there is a house that is directly behind this site, behind the kiosk there. Next page. So this is a picture looking from behind the actual store, looking over towards Bishop. There's a duplex that's across the street, and the building on the left is that car repair facility. And you can see there's a board-on-board fence that runs along the back side of the property. Next, please. This is out in Bishop's, looking along the back property line, and this is the house that is immediately behind the station. You can see the existing convenience store off to the right side there. Next one, please. This is a picture looking east on Frederick Road, standing right next to where the car facility is. You can see it's a very commercial corridor, bank across the street, more retail spaces, gas station further down, Dunkin' Donuts, lots of different commercial uses here on this part of Frederick Road. Next, please. And then this is looking the other direction, up Frederick Road. You can see the gas station right there, and ARC station right there on the left-hand side. There's a Rita's Italian Ice, which is next to it in the middle of the picture there, and then some more commercial buildings further down towards the west on Frederick Road here. Next, please. This is a real good shot of basically standing where the pumps are and looking at the car repair facility that's on the opposite side of Bishop's Lane. Next, please. This is a picture out looking more or less the same direction. You can see the commercial uses there behind the car repair place as you look left down Frederick Road. Next, please. Once again, there's the bank building directly kind of on the opposite side of the intersection there with Bishop's. Next, please. And this is straight across from the site. There's an old church building there, which is on the west side of Bishop's Lane. Pretty much the only non-commercial building there in this little area. And next, please. Yeah, there's the buildings that are to the west of the church. It's more of stores and bank building there. Next, please. Just to the west of that, there's a Jiffy Lube. It's a picture of the Jiffy Lube there. So next, please. And just beyond the Jiffy Lube, this is all still on the north side of Frederick Road. You can see there's a Truist Bank and some more retail spaces over there adjacent to that. Next, please. So this is the Rita's Italian Ice I was stating. This is immediately on the west side of our property. And then to the rear of it is another car repair place that's way in the back there. And just to the left side here is the western side of the car, where the car wash is actually going to be going, basically. Next, please. Once again, there's the Rita's building. They have like a little drive-through set up to come through there. I'm guessing this may have been an old bank building, but anyway, they got a little drive-through set up coming through there. And these are parking spaces that are on our lot in the foreground here. And the road in between is the road that leads back to the other car repair place that's immediately behind the gas station site. Next, please. And there is the car repair place. Behind the car wash will go basically right in front of that. And the convenience store is the white building on the left-hand side there. Next, please. One last picture of basically the corner of Bishop's. You can see the sign. That sign is intending to stay. We probably will add something to it that says car wash, included with the crown, and then of course the pricing below it. Next, please. So this is the zoning map for the property. The property is zoned BLCCC. You can see the canopy at the top of the property and the kind of sort of Ellis shape there. That's the actual convenience store, and the little building over to the right, which is the kiosk where the bank card was. Next, please. And here's the aerial picture of the same thing. You can see the canopy, the convenience store building, and the little bank ATM across the street on the east side. That's the car repair place. You can see the couple houses that are just to the south on along Bishop's Lane, and then a big parking lot that is behind us, which is all part of the car repair place, which is immediately to the left of that. And then up in immediately on the left side, west side of our site, that's the little Rita's Italian Ice building. Next, please. So this is the site plan. You can see that the pumps are going to stay exactly the same place. They zoom in just a little bit. You can see the stacking for the pumps of the cars up there. And the parking along the west side is going to be replaced with where the stacking is coming into the car wash building, which is on the left-hand side there. And add some more parking spaces up to the northeast corner of the property. Put some landscaping in along Bishop's Lane where there isn't any right now. And the stacking lane, which comes around starting at the east side off of Bishop's Lane, wraps around the back of the building, and then through the car wash and then heads out towards Frederick Road as on the exit of it. Next, please. So this is our conceptual landscape plan. See that we're putting a lot of landscaping along the rear of the property, and then creating some landscape spaces where basically there isn't any now along Frederick Road, adding landscaping areas, and landscaping to around the parking spaces that are being constructed on the east side. Basically, we're creating the drive-through lane through the back, and the parking is pretty much in the same spot as it is today along that side, where the little bank building that's going away. Next, please. So we're into the architecture stuff here, and I'd like Paul to jump in if he wants to, but basically this on the upper left there is the conceptual rendering of what is going to look like. The colors are going to be blue, not green, for the crown, but the canopy that's just been replaced in the front there, the convenience store, which is being reworked in the back there, and then the car wash that's off on the right-hand side of that top part. And then you can see a little picture there on the left-hand side below it of what's there today. And then on the bottom right is more of a picture from the other direction, where you see the car wash front, and then the convenience store in the back. And of course, the intention of the convenience store renovation is to make it look clean and modern, add new storefront, and just make it look a lot more conventional than what it does today, because it's kind of old and tired at this point. Next, please. This is a picture of the floor plans. You see the canopy with the pumps up at the top on the right, the convenience store, which is going to pretty much remain as it is now inside, the coolers on the left-hand side, all the merchandise on the right-hand side, and the cashiers in the back there. And then, of course, the car wash. And the one thing about the car wash building, which was noted, the doors were shown in the middle, and they really are going to be over towards the east side of the building, because the west side is where all the equipment is, and the cars will go through on the east side and get their wash and then come out again. Next, please. So here's kind of a up close rendering with the materials labeled as to what's going to be there. Once again, I believe it's going to be blue and not green, because the colors for Crown, which it's being rebranded as a Crown station now instead of BP. But this is kind of the color ideas that we're going to have, other than the green will be blue. Next. Once again, some more of the elevational views and materials. Next. And just some of the materials that are being used for the metal panels and brick up at the top, the shingles there next, and then sort of a sample of the dumpster enclosure that we're proposing that will go goes in adjacent to the car wash there, in between the two buildings. So unless Paul or Cassandra has anything to say, I think I'll open it up to the panels and get your comments.
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Richardson. Before we move to the panel, Marta, is there anyone signed up from the community?
No, no one is signed up. Brett, let me double check with Brett. Brett, anyone is on your end?
No, there's no one in the chat.
Marta, I think that the first you need to present the staff report.
Yes, we will. Thank you, Emily. We will go to that. But so Cecily, to answer your question, there are no community speakers from community.
Very good. Okay, well then, yes, please proceed with your report for this, Marta.
Okay. So staff report, the Department of Planning prepared staff report based on the comprehensive manual development policies, the Catonsville plan, and Baltimore County landscape manual. In terms of site design, staff cannot recommend approval of the site design subject to the following conditions. Number one, the site plan as proposed is not complete with labeled information. It appears that the rear portion of the building is being removed to accommodate the drive-through car wash lane. Demonstrate that all of the setbacks and parking requirements are being met through dimensioned setbacks and a parking chart. Number two, provide a detailed site plan showing the existing building, parking, sidewalk, and vehicle and pedestrian circulation to the street. The 2 parking spaces proposed near the exit point of the rear of the car wash could be problematic. Number 3, provide a detailed dumpster location on the plan that shows the access. In terms of form and image, staff recommends approval of the form and image. In terms of open space and landscape design, staff recommends approval with the following conditions. Number 1, provide enhanced landscaping along Frederick Avenue and Bishop Lane. Number 2, incorporate stormwater management best practices, provide explanation or demonstrate on the plan how stormwater runoff will be managed. In terms of street parking and circulation, staff recommends approval subject to the following conditions. Number 1, provide a detailed site plan showing the existing building, parking, sidewalk, and vehicle and pedestrian circulation to the street. The 2 parking spaces proposed near the exit point of the car wash could be problematic. Number 2, the architectural elevations reveals that the door to exit the car wash is centered on that facade of the building, but the site plans all show the egress out of the building to be slightly to the right. Clarify this discrepancy. Number 3, indicate how many parking spaces are required for the proposed site use. Number 4, clarify pedestrian and vehicle circulation on the site. Provide a circulation diagram. Number 5, provide bike racks and specify their location on the plan. For signage and lighting, staff cannot recommend approval of the signage and lighting subject to the following condition. Provide a lighting plan and any proposed signage for the added use of the car wash on the site. And for architectural design, staff recommends approval of the architectural design subject to the following conditions. Again, number 1, it seems that the door to exit the car wash is centered on that facade of the building, but the site plans all show the egress out of the building to be slightly to the right. Clarify this discrepancy and provide complete elevations showing colors and materials. Number 2, show all of the existing conditions for the convenience store. The proposed car wash drive-through is located behind the convenience store, where all of the utilities are currently located. Clarify where all of the existing utilities for the convenience store will be located. And this concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Marta. And with that, we'll open it up to the panel's discussion. Let's start with Joe Yusufera this time.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. So I have a fair number of comments that I think I want to refer back to the staff report. And you know, I just want to remind everyone on the phone that the panel is not required to review for zoning compliance, stormwater management, or setbacks. And I seem to there appears to be some county staff report comments that kind of go to the zoning and some of those comments. So I want to steer away from those. I think my first comment that Mr. Richardson already addressed was the entrance to the car wash I'm looking at a site plan here, and I think if Mr. Richardson could clarify that the entrance and exit of the car wash depicted on this site plan is accurate, which is, I think what I heard, which is different from what the architectural plan showed. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. The architect, I don't know, just didn't pick up on the fact that the one side of that building is basically where all the equipment is.
Yeah.
And the car wash where the car goes through is not in the center, but off to the side of that. And so that's just an error that we discovered thanks to the staff report. Yes.
Understood. And I think this coming in on the east side actually works better, right?
Yes.
Because it keeps you kind of outside of into the site. As a customer exits the car wash, it looks like there's some kind of striped area that's to be landscaped, but it doesn't appear to be curbed. Could you clarify that is to be curbed, because I really think it should be.
Yes, that area will be curbed off so we can put landscaping in there. The hatching is basically designated as the local open space.
Okay.
That's why I
Okay.
chose the hatching in there. But yes, the landscaping and curbing is intended to go in there, as well as on the north side of those two parking spaces there, where the additional tree and landscaping is there as well.
Understood. Okay, thank you. My next comment is just being curious and or asking the question, but the back piece of the site is zoned residential. Is there any zoning relief needed to put your drive-through in that zone?
It's in the RO, it's a RO zone back behind it, and we're trying to keep our stacking in the business zone. That's why it's tight up against the building.
Okay. It doesn't appear that way on the plan, so just point of clarification, as you progress forward, just look at that, because it appears that it would be commercial stacking in a residential zone. So just a advisory comment. I didn't hear you, Mr. Richardson, mention about a fence along that rear residential zone, but I do see a call out on the landscape plan.
There's an existing fence there now, yes. It shows
Okay.
in the picture. I did mention it with the one picture that I took looking over towards the duplex there.
Got it.
And
Okay.
I clearly see the fence there.
So would it remain as is?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And if it needs to be repaired, obviously, then we'd fix it. But
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
remaining in the same general space that it is now.
Okay. And then my last comment is simply two more comments. One advisory comment as it relates to the dumpster. Marta, if you could scroll kind of to the left of the plan, the dumpster is next to the car wash. But again, advisory, you may need to upgrade the facade, some kind of fire rated wall, because of the dumpster and the fire component. So just advisory there.
Understood.
And then I think my last comment as it relates to the architecture and the color scheme. So I think what you mentioned is instead of this green, it's going to be blue, and the blue color is going to be consistent with the picture of the canopy that you referred to earlier. Is that accurate?
Yes, they've just recently decided to rebrand this thing, and so the green is going to turn to blue. Yes, consistent with the canopy.
Okay. All right. Well, they were my comments. Thank you.
We'll move to Raj Sharma now.
So just a thought, it may be out of the scope of panel, you can correct me. My one question is that, is the facility going to be video monitored? Number two, what's the height going to be of those bushes? If they are too high, they might be, beyond the visual sight if the facility is monitored.
Which bushes are you referring to?
Around this entrance to the car wash and along the fence.
Along the backside, along the fence, and then on the up
Yes.
here at the exit to the car wash?
Yes, entrance to the car wash and the exit.
And you're concerned that they'll be too big?
No, my concern is that, if they are too big, so it can hide, everything may not be visible.
Okay. I don't have any particular plants. This is still in a concept stage at this point, so we can take that under advisement, I guess, as to try to make sure that the bushes that we propose are not too large there.
Are there any other concerns or questions? Sure, if you're muted. Mr. Sharma, anything further?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, very good. And then Fran, if you'd like to weigh in on this one, open it up to you.
Yeah, Cecily, Fran is just for residential.
Oh,
This
okay,
is
so
commercial.
he's, yeah. Okay, very good. So then, I think there are a couple of things that I would add. I mean, I do agree with the staff report on a number of points. Just looking at the dimensional to understand, those entry exits. Also the color change, I understand that was maybe a last minute and didn't get to come into this presentation, but blues, for example, can range. It would be good to see what that was. I also think the comments about the bike racks are needed and necessary to address. I think the dumpster enclosure, kind of at the front and kind of tucked in there, may need a little bit more study. I don't think the current, really, it's just a precedent image, I think, that's shown. I don't think that relates to the building redesign or the car wash design. And, there's some other components that I don't think are, altogether known, such as the plant material, the species, how the front edge is treated along Frederick Road, per the comments again of the county staff. I would relate similarly to that. Let's see. The sign, of course, needs to come back if there's an element added to it to talk about or advertise the car wash. I think those are my main comments of things that I see that were, maybe not fully developed or coordinated with the change of plans, or not listed to the satisfaction of what we would like to see in terms of plant material, locations, clarifying where curbs are or not, dumpster, etc. So that would be it for me. And then, so I'd like to just open again, give the presenter an opportunity to with any final comments before we move to motion.
So one thing you mentioned about the blue, I mean, if you go to the pictures of the canopy, you can see what the blue is. It's there. It's not a conjecture of what's going to be there. It's there already. So we know what that hue is, basically.
Yeah, we just need that, it needs to be documented on the drawings that it is a blue to match the crown color. Right now the documents that are submitted show it as green, so there's nothing to say that it's changing. I understand in the presentation, I just think that obviously there needs to be something recorded. I think that blue is fine if it's a direct match to that, meaning it's a custom color to match precisely that crown color, so be it. But sometimes things change when you go with a off the shelf, not custom color, that it could deviate. But again, it just needs to be recorded somewhere on submission documents.
Okay, understood. One of the other things that I just, not that anybody really was interested or not, but there is parking calculations on there. There are dimensions to all sides of the building from the property lines. I think that we did document the parking requirements and the setbacks of the buildings to address that issue. Not that, like I said, that is a point of what you're approving here necessarily anyways, but I did want to point that out.
Thank you for pointing that out. And you're right. The setbacks fall really more into meeting zoning requirements, but good to point out nonetheless. So with that, sorry, go ahead.
I would like to add also parking needs to meet Baltimore County zoning regulations requirement.
Yeah, so this is basically the first step that we need to go through before we can go to the zoning administrative law judge with a case. And so this, we need to check this box first before we can go there. So that's the next step that we need to proceed to.
But I believe
At that time, we'll get our relief that we need, or approval that we need of the plan from a zoning perspective.
Yeah, as noted, that's a bit out of our purview. Obviously, it has to meet the regulations. I will just note that sometimes applicants come with those calculations done and kind of ask us to weigh in. So it's, that will be addressed, and that's fine. So that's something that we'll comment on. The staff report already addresses that, and you'll have to go through those steps. So, okay, with that, I'll turn it back to my panel members if someone would like to venture to put a motion on the table.
This is Joseph Yusufero again. I really want to be sensitive to the applicant, and I have a couple questions for them. Do you anticipate having signs on your either building or canopy or car wash?
You mean building signs? Yeah, I would think.
Some kind of advertising signs.
Yeah, you can see on the current building they have S-Mart there, so I'm assuming they're going to have some kind of a signage there, and I'm assuming they're going to have possibly something on the car wash that says car wash on it as well.
Yeah. Okay. I ask that because it's my understanding that the design review panel needs to review and approve that prior to any kind of sign permits that are filed for. And I say that because the signs on the car wash and the new convenience store and the canopy are not shown. Therefore, I would assume you're going to have them, so you would likely have to come back. Is really where I'm going.
Okay.
Did you envision coming back to the panel next month for the signs, or do you envision coming back to the panel later?
Didn't know that I needed to have those specifically blessed by the panel, so I didn't intend to come back necessarily, but sounds like I guess we're going to have to for that purpose at least, anyways.
Understood. Okay. you know, I think this is just a discussion between the panel, but, you know, in my opinion, the architectural elevations show doors in different spots than the site plan. There's again, the colors are far different. I just think this is an incomplete submittal that I'd like to see again.
I would agree with you, Joseph. You know, per my comments, I just think there are a number of things. I mean, some things aren't within our purview that are in the staff report, but there are enough things that, you know, that would need to be considered. The dumpster enclosure, the signage, both on the freestanding sign as well as on the buildings, any lighting, you know, the plant material, the response to the county's comments on the plant material, specifically along Frederick Road, the incorporation of bike racks and where those go. So, I mean, there, to me, yes, there are enough things that would warrant a return. Mr. Sharma, any input on that?
I'm sorry, I don't.
So if you'd like to put together a motion to that effect, that would be great.
Sure. So I'd like to make a motion to request the applicant make the following modifications to the package and resubmit and come back before the design review panel. Number one, the applicant should review and comply with the conditions in the Department of Planning staff report. Number two, the applicant should show the colors that are being proposed on the building elevations. Number three, the architectural elevations should be coordinated and consistent with the site plan, specifically car wash door locations. Number four, the curbing at the exit of the drive-through should be shown as that. And I believe that's all of my comments.
Very good. Mr. Sharma, I have to look to you. Would you like to motion that or?
May I have the
Sorry, would you
excuse?
like to second that motion?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Do we have a second? I'm relying on you, Mr. Sharma, because we don't have any other panel members and I'm not allowed.
Yes, I mean, I do concur with the comments made and the motion made, and I second the motion. Yeah.
Thank you. Very good. I think that was well said, Joseph. So thank you for putting that together. And we'll move to a vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Mr. Sharma?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. So, thank you for presenting, and we will see you back with revised minor revisions to this, as well as any signage and any refinements. So thank you for this evening. And with that, I will ask a panel member to make a motion to adjourn.
This is Joseph Yusufero again. I make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Sharma, would you second that motion?
Second, yes, I'll second.
Very good. Now we get to vote. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Hi, thank you very much for this evening. Appreciate the input from everyone. See you next month.
Thank you, panel.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.